live-ish. New York City shuts down a public school, sends all the kids home so that they can fill that school with illegal immigrants. Also, we'll get to the bottom of Hunter Biden's crooked art scheme and how Democrats are responding to it. It's, well, you're going to need a stiff drink after you see what they're saying about it. Plus, the latest on our MIA SecDef and, Bob Menendez and how he is now connected to Jeffrey Epstein. That's all coming up and a whole lot more. It's time for me, Larry. I am Larry O'Connor. Call me Larry, and we're live across all of the Town Hall media platforms, our social media, our YouTube, our Facebook, our X.com. Go ahead and subscribe and like and follow so you can get notified every time we go live. Or maybe you're watching us after the fact on all those platforms or on the Town Hall media sites. Town Hall, Hot Air, PJ Media, Twitchy, Red State, and BearingArms.com. They're all our family, and we love delivering news and information to you on a regular basis. And the biggest story that we're following right now comes out of New York City, where the illegal immigrant problem has reached such crisis levels that the powers that be, the elected leaders, all Democrats, have decided the only way to accommodate the illegal immigrants is to shut down a public school, force the citizens, the kids, the actual legal tax-paying citizens of New York, force those kids home onto a Zoom call and populate that school with the illegal immigrants. Here was the scene last night in Brooklyn, James Madison High School, which, by the way, I'm told is the alma mater of Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, as well as Senator Bernie Sanders. Here they all are being ushered into that high school. Parents of students in that school were sent a letter, a notification last night telling them your kid has to stay home tomorrow because the school will be housing illegal immigrants. And by the way, this school, it's typical, by the way, that it's the students, it's children who end up paying the price for these failed policies of Democrats, who always tell us, by the way, that they're doing their compassionate liberal policies for the children, But you're a parent in New York City, you're a taxpayer, you're a legal citizen, and your kid is now suffering because of the policies of the Biden administration and the New York elected officials, all Democrats. This is in a Brooklyn neighborhood. Here's video of the illegal immigrants moving in last night. And by the way, the person who fed this video over to our friend Chaya Rychek at Libs of TikTok, she said that when she started filming the happenings right outside on a city street in Brooklyn, she was told to stop recording, which is illegal, by the way. You can record wherever you want on a public street. But why? Why can't you record what's happening? Why can't you document these events? Let's take a look. Oh, let me go back a little.
Why not? I got to see where my tax dollars are going. Hold on.
By the way, this is a good time to remind you that the state of New York voted overwhelmingly for Joe Biden, therefore voting for these policies. And certainly the borough of Brooklyn and the city of New York, by an astronomical number, probably about 70%, if I remember right, went for Joe Biden, went for the Democrat ticket, went for these policies. They want these policies. They got exactly what they voted for. Here's another scene with one of the moms from Brooklyn who, after receiving that notification from the school administration saying your kid stays home and your kid's school is now going to house illegal immigrants who don't even have a legal right to be here, well, she decided to let her voice be heard.
How does it feel that you kicked all the kids out of school tomorrow? How does it feel? You feel good? I hope you feel good. I hope you all sleep really well tonight.
Why are you yelling at them?
By the way, I'm fascinated by the person who witnesses this moment, realizing what's going on, and decides that they want to ask this angry woman, why are you yelling at them? If I were that woman, I would look at the dude with the camera and say, why aren't you yelling at them? What's wrong with you for not being outraged about this? But she gives the perfect American answer.
I have a right to. That's why. That's why. Because I'm an aggravated mother. That's why. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Taking over my kid's school. All the kids out to sleep here tonight, huh? How long you staying?
Oh, they're staying a very long time, ma'am, just so you know. Also, by the way, suburban white woman in New York. Odds are she voted for these policies. Odds are she didn't like the mean tweets. Odds are this is exactly what she voted for. This is literally America Last playing out before your eyes. The students of citizens and taxpayers in New York, those children have to take a back seat to illegal immigrants from foreign countries from all around the world who have come here unvetted, untested. They're here illegally, and they get accommodations. They get taken care of. And by the way, of course, they're not paying for any of this. That woman, to add insult to injury, that woman whose child is now displaced and has to do school from a laptop on your kitchen table today, that woman is paying for this. To add insult to injury. Peter Hassan, a journalist with Fox News, also did some research on this school, James Madison in Brooklyn. More than 2/3 of those students are economically disadvantaged. It's not rich kids being forced into remote learning, which COVID taught us is disastrous for students, and especially students from poor families. It's the poor students paying the price. And as we enter this presidential election cycle, we are going to be told by media housed and headquartered in New York City, that it's Republicans who want to enforce our immigration laws, who have no compassion. It's Republicans who want to actually fix our economic crisis in this country by cutting taxes and allowing citizens to keep their money. We're going to be told that we have no compassion for poor people, that we have no compassion for children. But look, just look with your eyes how these policies play out when they have their way. And let's be clear, when it comes to immigration in this country, Democrats have their way 100%. They are in control of every aspect of immigration policy. And in New York, how you deal with those illegal immigrants and what you do with them and how you treat them, that's 100% run by Democrats at the state level and at the city level. Republicans have no say in it. Oh, one other thing, those people who are upset in New York about this, they should go to El Paso. They should go to any of the border cities in Texas or in Arizona that have had to deal with this for years and years, who have been ignored by media, who have been ignored by the Democrat Party. They don't care about the border cities in those states. But trust me, what you're seeing in New York or Chicago or DC, LA, San Francisco, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they've had to deal with in those border cities. There's a lot more at play here too, by the way, because you would think that the member of the House of Representatives that represents part of Brooklyn where this is playing out, that they would be upset, that they would be representing their citizens who are upset about this. You would think that the member of Congress, whose job it is to represent the citizens of New York, would actually be screaming at the administration about the porous border, about the influx of millions of illegal immigrants now displacing kids in New York and kicking them out of their own school. But here's the Congresswoman from Brooklyn who explained exactly how she benefits from these illegal immigrants. In fact, she wants more.
And from Brooklyn, New York, we have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here.
I need more people in my district for redistricting purposes. Can we unpack that for a second? For redistricting purposes. In other words, you send more people here, they get counted in the census, and when we redistrict, we'll get another congressman here, another Democrat, By the way, it was revealed in the state of Arizona and in jurisdictions like New York and Maryland and California. There are various local municipalities who are now allowing non-citizens to vote, regardless of the legal status that they have. And in Arizona, it's actually written into the code that they can vote in federal elections. You don't have proof of citizenship, you can go ahead and vote in federal elections. So we want them here for redistricting purposes, as you just heard from Representative Yvette Clarke, so that we can get more representatives for our party. We want you here so you can vote in these elections, once again, helping out the party that allowed you here in the first place, because those mean, racist, xenophobic Republicans don't want you here. And number three, there's another aspect of this revelation from Representative Yvette Clarke. By the way, it's not a revelation. We've all known this. She's just saying it out loud finally and on the record. But there's another part of this revelation, which is if she wants them in her district for redistricting purposes, it's also a revenue play. You say if you have more people in your district, that means you can demand more money from the federal government for services. And who's going to be in charge of doling out those services and doling out the money locally within the congressional district? That woman right there. That gives them more control, more money, more power over your lives. She wants this to happen in her district so she can have all of that control. And who suffers? Who pays? Who actually ends up on the short end of the stick? This woman. This.
How does it feel that you kicked all the kids out of school tomorrow? How does it feel? You feel good? I hope you feel good. I hope you'll sleep really well tonight.
Why are you yelling at them?
Because I have a right to. That's why. That's why. Because I'm an aggravated mother. That's why.
Yeah, well, I hope you feel better knowing that your congresswoman is actually in favor of what's going on right now, because it gives her more people in her district, more representation for her party, more money, more control, more power, because that's really what this is all about. And by the way, most of the coverage of this story last night came from citizen journalists, people like that woman and other people who were on the ground covering this. You didn't see a whole lot of members of the media there. You didn't see the networks there. You didn't see the cable stations there, even though they're all based in New York City. It's not like they don't have the crews. It doesn't mean like it's not like they don't have the resources to be able to cover it. It's literally happening in their backyard. So where were they? What were reporters in New York doing yesterday instead of covering this atrocity? Well, according to a leaked video that went to the New York Post, a couple of those reporters were covering Donald Trump in federal court, and they were caught on a hot mic. Let's see what they had to say.
Even if he has his window open and he's hanging out of it, he'll be on the other side of the
I mean, if he's driving, we've got a good shot.
Yeah, if he's driving with the front window open.
Yeah. Or if it's a convertible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just explain what's going on here. They're talking about Trump showing up at the courthouse, what side of the car he's going to be on, whether the window is open or not. And you heard him say, we'll have a good shot. And so I'm sure you're thinking, oh, they're cameramen, right? They're looking to get a good shot, a camera shot of former President Donald Trump as he arrives at the courthouse so that they can, view him properly. Yeah, that's not the kind of shot they're talking about. Watch as their dialogue continues. Again, not what they say out loud when they're on camera. No, this is what's caught on a hot mic when they don't think anyone's listening.
I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. Like if he just pulls up
like JFK. It's like a JFK, a looping. Maybe someone, just like they told JFK, you know what you should do? You should take a convertible. It's so nice out.
So just like JFK,
Alex Frank, it is so nice to have.
Little Matt Fradd made a quick appearance on our show. Good for you, Matt. Just like JFK, you should take the convertible. Gee, memory stirs. JFK in a presidential limousine in a convertible. Yeah, there was definitely a shot made there. Those were reporters in New York joking about assassinating Donald Trump. That's what the reporters were doing in New York instead of covering this outrageous story in Brooklyn. Speaking of New York journalists, we have great news. Our long national nightmare is over. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Lemon is back. He made the announcement yesterday on the X platform. I want to read his announcement because I was so excited when I saw this, and I know you will be too. I heard you, and today I'm back. Hold on. What do you mean I heard you? Who's been clamoring for Don Lemon to come back? I heard who? I heard you, Mom. I know you want me to move out of the basement and get a real job again. I heard you. The demand for Don Lemon has been enormous. I heard you, and today I'm back bigger, bolder, and freer. My new media company's first project is The Don Lemon Show. You got to love that, too. Don Lemon announcing that he started a new media company, and its first project will be all about me. It's The Don Lemon Show. It'll be available to everyone easily, whenever and wherever you want it, streaming on the platforms where the conversations are happening. And you'll find it first on X, the biggest space for free speech in the world. You know, I may be wrong, but I don't remember Don Lemon when he was at CNN being such a champion for free speech. In fact, I remember him wanting to silence any critic of his or his party or his political leanings. I know now more than ever that we need a place for honest debate and discussion without the hall monitors. This is just the beginning, so stay tuned. Wow. So basically what we're going to be getting here is Don Lemon unplugged, Don Lemon without a censor, Don Lemon without the hall monitors that kept him from being the real Don Lemon there on CNN. The mind boggles at what that's going to look like. But in this new media era that we're living in, with so many options for people to get news and information and commentary, alliances are formed that might actually raise your eyebrows. In fact, one of the most high-profile media figures to congratulate Don Lemon yesterday was none other than Tucker Carlson. Here he is, congratulating Don Lemon and welcoming him to the X platform. Congratulations. It's a new world. Welcome. What? Now, last time I checked from Tucker Carlson and his opinion of Don Lemon, he had things to say like this on the Full Send podcast.
Oh, well, Don Lemon, who's not a friend of mine, Don Lemon is an international man of mystery. Don Lemon is the stupidest person who's ever had a TV show, but he is, and that's saying a lot, but he's also simultaneously got massive flair. Like, I just can't not like Don Lemon. I can't help it. I just like him. I think he's hilarious.
Well, he is hilarious, but it's unintentional usually. But, listen, I guess this is Tucker Carlson being consistent. He did say that he liked him. He can't help liking him. And yet he's also the stupid man ever to have the television show. So I guess the congratulations there are just on a personal level. I'm happy for you. I've always liked you, even though I think you're the stupidest man on the planet. In fact, we remember at least one of the many segments Tucker Carlson did on his old show, Fox News Channel, about the aforementioned Don, is it Lemon? Is that how we pronounce it? Yeah, Don Lemon.
We will concede we have spent many happy years making fun of Mr. Don Lemon of CNN, and at times we'll concede we've been a little cruel. But even as we have mocked him, and there has been honestly an undercurrent of real affection. We kind of admire Don Lemon. How can a man so obviously limited have such boundless self-esteem? Doesn't he know he's an idiot? No, he has no idea. This is the guy who once suggested that a commercial airliner had been eaten by a black hole. And when people laughed at him, he seemed completely unbothered by their laughter. In a world of intellectual pretense, Don Lemon is not ashamed of being dumb, or for that matter, ashamed of anything else. When he got fired last year from his primetime gig for low ratings and reassigned to mornings, he told viewers it was a promotion, and he seemed to mean it. So whatever else you say about Mr. Don Lemon, he is unflappable, or so we assumed. It turns out there is, in fact, one thing that bothers Don Lemon, and that's not being the prettiest person on the set. That drives him insane. So possibly as a kind of torture, a kind of punishment, CNN's new president, Chris Licht, paired Don Lemon with two much younger, much more attractive co-hosts, Caitlin Collins and Poppy Harlow. And the normally steely Don Lemon began to melt down before our very eyes. The other day, for example, after Caitlin Collins interviewed a Republican member of Congress, Don Lemon launched into an attack on Republicans that wasn't actually an attack on Republicans, but a not-so-veiled attack on his co-host, Caitlin Collins. Can't do that. Producers in the control room turned up the music to get him to be quiet. We're going to commercial now. But he shushed them to keep attacking her. Watch this.
Thank you for taking time to join us.
Thank you for having me. All right. Thank you. That's going to be it. That's the time that we're in, where facts are sort of flexible. And
that's why we got Caitlin Collins on the Hill,
out there,
fact-checking in real time. It was a great interview.
Citing incredible sources, like citing the New York Post as a credible source and saying that facts are, it's just, I can't believe that we're here.
Caitlin, that was a great interview. Moving on.
Anyway, well, now moving on, because listen, that's a big issue when it comes to the American, hold on please with the music. That's a big issue when it comes to the American people. The American people are gonna have to suffer through all of this stuff, from election deniers to people who don't believe in facts. We don't have a shared reality. And now it's taken center stage to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene.
This is Thanksgiving at the alcoholic passive-aggressive family's house. The American people, shrieks Don Lemon. The American people. Of course, it's not about the American people. It's definitely not about, quote, facts. Facts. No. It's about how Don Lemon feels about himself.
All right. Now it's all starting to make sense. Now I can understand why Tucker Carlson sent this congratulations message to Don Lemon when Don Lemon announced he was going to be launching a brand new show on the X platform. Tucker's excited because he's going to get golden moments like that. And we're excited too. I mean, say what you will about Don Lemon, but since he's been fired from that morning show on CNN, which was about a year ago, I think. I wonder if it was contractual that he couldn't do anything for a year. That would make sense, actually. Since he's been fired from the CNN morning show, when was the last time you actually heard anything about the CNN morning show, right? I mean, no one was watching when Don Lemon was on, but something like that would happen, and then suddenly you would see it on Fox News, or you'd hear about it on conservative talk radio, and people would be saying, oh my God, can you believe what Don Lemon said on his morning show? Since then, no one cares. I mean, literally, no one cares about what happens on CNN's morning show. So, I mean, there is some value in that, right? For us over here at Town Hall Media, and certainly here on the Larry Show, we're going to hold our breath and wait and see on this new venture from Don Lemon and the Don Lemon Show on X, because listen, we might get that guy that you just saw, the insufferable prig who's all about himself and shaming people who disagree with him and calling them liar and saying the New York Post isn't a credible source, when last I checked, the New York Post is the only publication that actually got it right on the Hunter Biden laptop story, while CNN silenced it, censored it, and kept it from their viewers. I mean, it's really something for CNN and Don Lemon to be saying the New York Post is incredible. We might get that guy, but we're hoping we actually end up getting this guy, the same Don Lemon, just a few years before what you just saw. A Don Lemon before Donald Trump was president, a Don Lemon who actually kind of made sense.
Because Black people, if you really want to fix the problem, here's just 5 things that you should think about doing. Here's number 5. And if this doesn't apply to you, if you're not doing this, then it doesn't apply to you. I'm not talking about you. Here's number 5. Pull up your pants. Walking around with your ass and your underwear showing is not okay. In fact, it comes from prison when they take away belts from the prisoner so that they can't make a weapon. And then it evolved into which role a prisoner would have during male-on-male prison sex. The one with the really low pants is a submissive one. You get my point? Number 4 now is the N-word. By promoting the use of that word when it's not germane to the conversation, have you ever considered that you may just be perpetuating the stereotype the massa intended, acting like a nigger? Now, number 3, respect where you live. Start small by not dropping trash, littering in your own communities. I've lived in several predominantly white neighborhoods in my life. I rarely, if ever, witness people littering. I live in Harlem now. It's an historically Black neighborhood. Every single day I see adults and children dropping their trash on the ground when a garbage can is just feet away. Just being honest here. Number 2, finish school. You want to break the cycle of poverty? Stop telling kids they're acting white because they go to school or they speak proper English. A high school dropout makes on average $19,000 a year. A high school graduate makes $28,000 a year. A college graduate makes $51,000 a year. Over the course of a career, a college grad will make nearly $1 million more than a high school graduate. That's a lot of money. And number one, and probably the most important, just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should, especially without planning for one or getting married first. More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison. And the cycle continues.
Yeah, that's I like that, Don Lemon. Don't you like that, Don Lemon? That Don Lemon makes some sense. That Don Lemon actually said some pretty important and vital things that you could argue that in this day and age in the media, only Don Lemon or someone like Don Lemon can say. Because here's the thing. The other Don Lemon, who sadly we saw quite a bit of over the last 5 or 6 years, if that Don Lemon had a guest come on his program and say exactly the same thing that the other Don Lemon said, well, the new Don Lemon would have called him a racist and kicked him off the show. So, which Don Lemon will show up on the X platform? We'll see, but I know which one I'm hoping for. Let's move now to an update in the Bob Menendez scandal. Now, Bob Menendez, you'll remember, is now under criminal investigation for taking bribery money from Egypt and sources in Egypt. Of course, he sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. To this day, at this moment, he sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee and can vote and make decisions that affect our relationship with foreign countries, including the very country that he is accused of taking bribes from. And I'm talking about like gold bars in his underwear drawer and such. Well, Bob Menendez's name is in the news yet again, and this time it's associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Here's a quick explainer laid out by the New York Post. Yeah, it's unclear whether he knew anything about it. Now, of course, you saw a reference in there to the fact that she had been photographed. This is his ex-girlfriend now being accused of being associated with Jeffrey Epstein, participating in orgies with underage women. This all part of some of the revelations that came out of the deposition that was recently released and unmasked by a federal judge in New York. You saw a reference there that she was photographed with Epstein and the convicted child trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in 1995. Now, if you're doing the math, that was almost 30 years ago. But because Trump's name is involved, this actually might get traction. This actually might get coverage from the mainstream media because, God, they are desperate to tie Donald Trump to the Jeffrey Epstein thing, which is weird because there are plenty of Democrats and people from Hollywood who are legitimately already known to be directly connected to the Jeffrey Epstein thing, not tangentially, like showing up at a party 30 years ago. No, I mean directly on the plane, on the island multiple times, Bill Clinton. And yet the media barely covers that. But boy, oh boy, do they want to have anything that involves the Trump name. Well, here you've got something that involves the Trump name. There was a party at Mar-a-Lago owned by Donald Trump almost 30 years ago, and one of the women that was there now is being named as a procurer and participant with children at orgies, and that woman is the former girlfriend of Senator Bob Menendez, who's currently under FBI investigation. Oh, by the way, I forgot one critical part. Bob Menendez is a Democrat. That might be the other reason why this story doesn't get much attention. But it's just yet another example, not just of corruption in the Democratic Party, but how it's protected and covered up by his fellow Democrats and also by the media. But of course, we repeat ourselves when we make that statement. I have to hand it to one Democrat, though, one Democrat senator, a high-profile one of Bob Menendez's colleagues, in fact, the only Democrat in the Senate who is a Menendez colleague, who has actually come out and condemned his behavior. And he did it yet again yesterday. Yeah, that's right. Democrat John Fetterman. They got to stop making me like this guy. Fetterman, of course, shares a border with Bob Menendez. Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, and Menendez, the senator from Pennsylvania North, New Jersey. And here's what he had to say.
Menendez went to the Senate floor today, forcefully denied the allegations against him and said the government is trying to manipulate the media.
He did.
What's your thoughts?
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's a victim. Yeah, he's a victim. But hey, I've been calling for that sleazeball has to go. And I don't know why we have to get rid of Santos and we would keep somebody like him around.
He accused his colleagues, I guess that would include yourself, who called on him to resign or to leave Congress, of acting politically. What do you say to his accusation?
No, I think it's my aversion to gold bars in your mattress and over $500,000 stuffed around your house and changing your mind about, hey, which $24,000 watch am I going to get? It's just strange. And now when you're polling at 4%, why are you hanging around at this point? You have no future. But I can't imagine why we can keep him around.
You know, I got to tell you, Senator Fetterman's body double, who actually takes his place because the actual John Fetterman is physically and mentally incapacitated, that body double is really starting to grow on me. Oh, is that that's a false conspiracy? Remember, there was a whole thing about the body double thing. Is that not? Oh, that's really John Fetterman? I don't know what's going on there, but he's making a lot of sense. Oh, speaking of criminal, scumbag, sleazebag Democrats, Hunter Biden is on Capitol Hill today. In fact, as we speak, Hunter Biden is, he's not appearing, he's not testifying, but he is there for a hearing, calling him out for contempt of Congress for refusing to adhere to his congressional subpoena. And we've got a little bit of footage from that hearing. However, there's another part of the Hunter Biden corruption that connects directly to the White House that we want to lay out for you. Because as you know, Hunter Biden is an artist. I mean, just look at this. That's some incredible work. That in fact is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. That piece of beautiful work there. That is a Hunter Biden original. And as you know, Hunter Biden, the son of the president, as soon as Joe Biden, his dad, became president, he suddenly began auctioning off and selling his art for a ton of money. And some people raised some ethical concerns. Well, yesterday on Capitol Hill, his art broker appeared. Now, here's a quick look of him appearing and entering the hearing room, and a reporter asked him a couple of questions.
Mr. Burgess, can you tell me how you and Hunter Biden first met? Would you be able to tell me who facilitated the, which donors bought the paintings?
Yeah, he seems pretty trustworthy, doesn't he? He doesn't seem like he has anything to hide. I mean, if he's just the art broker and his job is to just facilitate the sales of these pieces of art, why would he not want to comment to a reporter? Why couldn't he ask a simple question? This is how I met Hunter Biden. I was so captivated by his stunning and incredible artwork that I just had to reach out to him and work out a deal because I needed to share that art with the rest of the world. I mean, that should have been the answer, right? But it's just no comment. It's no comment. Well, let me remind you really quickly exactly what the White House did here, because it's a real piece of sleight of hand. And I want to lay this out for you because everything that we hear about Hunter Biden, sometimes it gets confusing. This isn't confusing at all. Hunter Biden is making money from people who directly benefit from the Biden presidency. And it's a way for people who want to get close to the president and who want to have influence and power with the president or with the Democratic Party. This is a way for them to get it by funneling tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to the president's son. Here's Jen Psaki. Oh, I miss Jen Psaki, don't you? She was laying out exactly what the ethical protocols would be.
Did the White House play any role in crafting the sales agreement with the New York Gallery to protect the purchasers or the ultimate purchaser's identity?
Well, I can tell you that after careful consideration, a system has been established that allows for Hunter Biden to work in his profession within reasonable safeguards. Of course, he has the right to pursue an artistic career, just like any child of a president has the right to pursue a career.
Yeah, I do love it when they do that. He has a right to pursue a career just like any other child of a president. It makes it sound like he's, 14 years old and he wants a paper route. The guy's over 50, okay? We have no concern about a person, a child, an adult child of a president pursuing a career. It's the details is where the devil lies here, Jen. Stop calling him the president's child, for crying out loud.
But all interactions regarding the selling of art and the setting of prices will be handled by a professional gallerist adhering to the highest industry standards. And any offer out of the normal course would be rejected out of hand. And the gallerist will not share information about buyers or prospective buyers, including their identities with Hunter Biden or the administration, which provides quite a level of protection and transparency. Right.
Okay, now what you just heard is a critically important detail. This was the party line. This is what the White House, obviously that's the spokesperson for the White House. And when ethical questions were raised about how Hunter Biden was going to make money selling art, you just heard the details. There will be a third-party broker or gallerist in place to handle the transactions, and they will all be anonymous. Now, that broker, that gallerist, is this guy who just testified before the Oversight Committee. His name is Georges Berger. Now, I think his name is George Berge or Berg, perhaps, but when you're dealing in art, you have to put accents everywhere and make it sound like you're French. So George Berge ended up being Georges Berger. You make more money that way. But I want you to focus on what was just said here, what was said to the American people and the media about how these transactions would go.
Course would be rejected out of hand, and the gallerist will not share information about buyers or prospective buyers, including their identities with Hunter Biden or the administration.
You see, this is all an anonymous process. The gallerist, and so here's how it was painted for everybody. Okay, Hunter Biden makes the crappy little piece of art, sends it to the gallery or to the broker, and that's it. And he's done. He walks away. He goes and smokes his crack. It doesn't matter what he does. Okay. The gallery then gets the offers from potential art lovers who really want to hang that stuff on their wall. They purchase the art from the broker, and neither Hunter Biden nor the White House ever even knows who bought it. The broker just, takes his commission and then sends the rest of the money to the artist, and everything's finished. Wash your hands, completely ethical and perfect. If Hunter Biden never knows the identity of the person buying their art, there's no way that he can provide favors or influence or deliver messages back to the president or anything like that, right? All the stuff that he did back when Joe was vice president and he was making money from communist China and Russia and Ukraine and Kazakhstan and other nefarious actors around the world. He can't do that anymore now that Joe's president. It'll all be anonymous, and everyone will be removed from the process except for that art broker. That's what we were told. That's what Jen Psaki just said to you. You saw it. You heard it. So now what happened yesterday on Capitol Hill? Yesterday on Capitol Hill, the House Oversight Committee interviewed that broker, the guy who was going to be in the middle of everything. And they broke down on Twitter exactly the details of what actually took place with the art deals. As you can see, it turns out the vast majority of Hunter Biden's art has been purchased by Democrat donors. Okay, well, that's fine, right? I mean, just because they're Democrat donors, it doesn't matter since the entire process is anonymous. Well, not so fast, my friends. The White House said they crafted an agreement to keep Hunter's art buyers confidential to avoid ethical issues, right? We just saw that. But Hunter's art dealer says he had no communication with the White House about that agreement. Yeah. The broker says the White House never told me that. They never told me to keep this anonymous. I never talked to them at all. In fact, Berger admitted Hunter Biden knew the identities of the individuals who purchased roughly 70% of the value of his art. 70% of the proceeds of Hunter Biden's art was sold to people that Hunter Biden was fully aware of and knew. They knew their identities. We were told the exact opposite, that it would all be anonymous. This included big-time Democrat donors like Kevin Morris and Elizabeth Hirsch Naftali. The art dealer, Georges Berger, also revealed that Kevin Morris purchased most of Hunter Biden's art for $875,000 last January. Kevin Morris only paid Berger's 40% commission. 40% commission? My God, I'm in the wrong business. I want 40% of $875,000. That's about 150 grand, right? No, wait. Yeah, no. Wait, 40% is that's about 300,000, excuse me. 350,000. Math is hard. Hunter Biden and Kevin Morris figured out the financial implications. Let me, I just went off on a tangent because of the commission thing. So let me repeat this. Kevin Morris paid Berger the 40% commission of the purchase, and then Hunter Biden and Kevin Morris figured out the rest. You see what happened here? It's not like Kevin Morris walks into the gallery and says, yeah, give me $875,000 of Hunter Biden art. Here's my check. Thank you very much, and walked away. That's what the White House told us was going to happen. No, that's not what happened. Kevin Morris goes over to the art dealer, the broker, pays him his 40% commission, and then he gets together with Hunter Biden personally, the two of them, and they work out the rest of the deal. Who knows how much the rest of that deal was? Who knows what else was thrown in with the art? Okay, here's your $875,000 worth of art. Here's also my dad's phone number, his private secret email address that he uses. Oh, although he's going to be doing a state dinner. Would you like to have a seat at the table of one of the ambassadors that you're doing foreign business with? We don't know. We don't know what else Hunter Biden said or provided for this art transaction. What we do know is this is the exact opposite of what the White House promised. This was supposed to be a completely anonymous transaction that Hunter Biden had no knowledge of. In fact, Hunter Biden arranged for the entire purchase after the art dealer got his commission. It's a complete and total violation. Furthermore, in 2020, Elizabeth Hirsch Naftali did not buy Hunter Biden's art despite Georges Berger's best efforts. Within 2 months of Joe Biden becoming president, so again, in 2020, before the election, she didn't want to buy any of it. Once he became president in February, 1 month after he became president, she bought the first piece of Hunter Biden's artwork for 42 grand. Then a few months later, President Biden announced that Ms. Naftali would be appointed to a special commission. The same commission that Biden family associate Eric Sherwin was appointed to during the Obama-Biden administration. And then in December of that year, she purchased more art for $52,000. Hunter Biden's art dealer also stated that he's talked on the phone and met in person with Joe Biden and attended a wedding that the Bidens hosted at the White House. Why? Why would this guy talk on the phone with President Joe Biden? And again, let's remind you what the White House's position was on the ethics involved with these art deals.
Following up on the question about Hunter Biden and his art shows, are there any specific procedures you can tell us that are being put in place to ensure that these conversations remain, as you say, not about the sales? Will he get ethics training? Will he have to report afterwards about the conversations? Anything specific you can tell us about how you are monitoring this?
Well, again, I think it is certainly a commitment that has been made by all parties involved. He is not involved in the sale or discussions about the sale of his art, and he will not be informed of the sale of his art and who is purchasing that art. That is a commitment that's been made, and we expect that all parties would abide by.
In other words, Hunter Biden and the art dealer were on the honor system. Hey, they made this commitment, and we're sure they're going to honor that commitment. Well, what if they don't? Well, we're now at the place where what if occurred. What if they don't honor the commitment? Well, I mean, you would think that maybe there would be some sort of criminal investigation into that. But you would think wrong, because our Justice Department is under the control of Joe Biden, and it is the most corrupt administration in the history of the United States of America. That said, as I mentioned, Hunter Biden is up on Capitol Hill today. Now, they're investigating whether they should hold him in contempt of Congress because he refused to adhere to a subpoena over all the other illegal activities that he and his uncle and his dad, the president, were involved in prior to Joe Biden becoming president. But Democrats, thankfully, they're all over this hearing, and they want to get to the truth, too. Here's Congresswoman Jayapal with her moment, finally talking about the Hunter Biden thing, and let's see what she had to say.
Things, but if we're going to talk about outrageous things that have happened or things that have never happened, let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an erection and things. But if we're going to talk,
I'm sorry, what did she say? President Trump did a what now?
Things, but if we're going to talk about outrageous things that have happened or things that have never happened, let's talk about the fact that President Trump incited an erection and
hilarious. And if this sounds familiar, I'll remind you that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer kind of said the same thing.
Senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the erection. Senators will.
What's going on here exactly? They seem to be kind of obsessed. I'm sorry, Chuck, he's not going to date you. Maybe this is the problem. Maybe this is actually the root of the problem with the Democrats, who are so obsessed with Donald Trump that it's actually reached the point of sexual obsession. They got to let it go. This does explain the Trump dementia syndrome, though, doesn't it? The Trump derangement syndrome. There's some sort of weird erotic thing going on here, and they can't get past it. Thankfully, the internet is here to button this all up.
Donald John Trump incited the erection.
I love you too, but you're not my type.
God, I love this job. And I do love the internet. All right, let's finish on a somewhat serious note, though, if we could, because yesterday we had a press briefing with regard to more revelations on the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin's AWOL activity, missing in action, getting medical procedures, even ending up in the intensive care unit without ever informing the American people, let alone the National Security Advisor and the President of the United States. Well, it's now been revealed that Lloyd Austin is suffering from prostate cancer. And certainly we wish him the best, but that doesn't excuse his behavior. You're in the chain of command here, and you're in charge of the Pentagon. That's kind of an important job. You're supposed to let people know when you've got a medical emergency. You know how I know that? Because I know a lot of people who are in the military, and that's the regulation that they all have to adhere to. You see, the Secretary of Defense, who's now in charge of disciplining anyone who wears the uniform and who goes outside the guidelines and the military code, well, he'll throw them in jail. He'll discharge them from the Army if they violate that code. Secretary of Defense just violated that code himself. And he knows better, because up until the moment he became SecDef, he himself wore the uniform. The man is a retired 4-star general. He can't plead ignorance here. But that's the problem with Lloyd Austin and the Pentagon. What about the White House and how they've handled this? John Kirby, spokesperson for the National Security Council, he fielded questions here, and it didn't go well for Kirby or for the Biden administration.
So the president has known for, I guess, 5 days now that Secretary Austin was in the hospital, but he wasn't informed why?
He was not informed until last Friday that Secretary Austin was in the hospital. He was not informed until this morning that the root cause of that hospitalization was prostate cancer.
All right, now this reporter from CBS is going to get do a good job of following up there and say, well, wait a minute. He didn't find out till Friday. I thought you found out on Thursday, and we'll get to that in a minute. But think this through for a second. Biden finds out on Friday that his Secretary of Defense has been missing and unavailable, and it turns out he's in the hospital. And it didn't take, and that wasn't until Tuesday that he actually found out why he was in the hospital. I mean, maybe it's me, but you find out somebody that you work with, somebody that's close to you, somebody that's important, somebody you're supposed to be talking to or interacting with literally on a daily basis. You find out they're in the hospital and you don't immediately say, well, what's going on? Why is he in the hospital? Is he okay? Or what's the problem? You don't get a straight answer to that basic fundamental question for another 5 days? What the hell is going on here?
Is that because the White House knew and didn't inform the president, or because Secretary Austin chose not to share that with the president?
Nobody at the White House knew that Secretary Austin had prostate cancer until this morning, and the president was informed immediately after we were.
Okay. Last week, we learned that Jake Sullivan, I believe, found out about the fact that Secretary Austin was hospitalized on Thursday morning. So just want to clarify, are you saying the president found out a day later than the NSC did?
No, Jake was informed, our national security advisor was informed that Secretary Austin was in the hospital and had been for some time. He found out late Thursday afternoon, and he and the chief of staff, Mr. Zients, informed the president later that evening, early that evening, not long after they learned.
Of course, he just contradicted himself, because earlier he said that the president found out on Friday, and now he's saying that he found out Thursday night. I think that's because he just realized that that there was a discrepancy there, so he's changing his story. It's another reason why it's very hard to believe this White House on this, or at this point, any other issue. John Kirby is the best they've got, and he is flailing here. In fact, he benefited there from lack of follow-up and any sort of pressing on the facts and issues, because that was a reporter from CBS News. He didn't get that benefit when Peter Doocy of Fox News started the questioning.
Okay, thank you for all the detail on that. But more broadly, why should we believe anything that this administration tells us about anything ever again?
I think we all recognize, and I think the Pentagon has been very, very honest with themselves about the challenge to credibility.
I love that, by the way. The Pentagon's been really honest with themselves. Okay, but they haven't been honest with us. They haven't been honest with the voters. They haven't been honest with the media. They haven't been honest with the White House. But thank God the Pentagon's been super duper honest with themselves about this. It gets worse for Kirby.
By what has transpired here, and by how hard it was for them to be fully transparent with the American people. I think we all recognize that. And wait, now just give me a second now. I know you got another one coming here, but we all recognize that this didn't unfold the way it should have on so many levels, not just the notification process up the chain of command, but the transparency issue. We all recognize that.
I love this is such a Washington, D.C. thing. And since I've worked here in the media for so long, I feel like part of my benefit here that I provide you is to help point out what they do so you can see it yourself. Did you notice what he said? This didn't unfold and transpire the way that it should have. You like the passive language there, as if this thing just happened on its own, right? This thing didn't unfold the way it should have. You know what? I don't want to paraphrase him.
We all recognize that this didn't unfold the way it should have.
This didn't unfold the way it should have. This is Washington speak. Mr. Kirby, with all due respect, sir, this didn't unfold. Somebody unfolded it. You see, they specifically use language that doesn't put any individual or individuals in the line of fire to actually take responsibility. This didn't unfold the way it should have. Okay, who unfolded it the way it shouldn't have? Who should be fired? That's the biggest problem with this entire Pentagon. And his answer here reveals it even more so. Wait, there's more here. And every time he responds to this and responds to a question, your answer in your head or your response in your head should be, who's getting fired? Who's getting fired? Everything about this is wrong. Who should be fired? Watch.
On so many levels, not just the notification process up the chain of command, but the transparency issue. We all recognize that. And I think we all want to make sure we learn from that. It's up to you and your colleagues, and it's up to the American people to determine, how much they're going to ascribe what happened here to our credibility on every single issue. But in every way, Secretary Austin has been an exceptional defense secretary, and he still has the full faith and confidence of the commander in chief. He has led the department at an incredibly dangerous time for our national security interests and those of our allies and partners.
All right, so quickly here, because we want to get to the next question from Ducey, which is actually probably the greatest question asked by a reporter during the entire Biden administration. By every measure, Secretary Austin has been a fantastic, incredible, great Secretary of Defense, John Kirby just said. Can I remind you of Afghanistan? Can I remind you, please, for a moment of the pullout from Afghanistan and the fact that billions and billions of dollars of American military equipment was left in the hands of the Taliban, and the chaos at Hamid Karzai Airport, because it was this Secretary of Defense's decision, along with General Milley at the Joint Chiefs, to leave the military airport that we had built and constructed there, and leave that in the hands of the Taliban and go use the commercial airport in the middle of the biggest city of Afghanistan and rely on the Taliban to provide security. Remember how that unfolded? And oh, by the way, do you remember how we then had to turn around in midair and send thousands of troops back to help secure the area? And that resulted in a terrorist attack that killed 13 service members. And that was Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, who John Kirby, now what a disgrace he is to the uniform that he used to wear. John Kirby calls that performance a fine, great, wonderful job by a Secretary of Defense. That's an outrage. I'm sorry. He hasn't been a very good Secretary of Defense. And the second point he just made, that he has led the Pentagon in an incredibly dangerous time. Dude, the fact that this is such an incredibly dangerous time, in fact, one could argue that the last 2 weeks with the events in the Middle East and Africa and Eastern Europe and Taiwan and China, one could argue that the last 2 to 4 weeks have been the most dangerous time for the United States military during Lloyd Austin's tenure as Secretary of Defense. And he checked out. He wasn't available. He wasn't part of the chain of communications, and he never told anybody that he wasn't part of the chain of communications. The fact that this is a dangerous time is the reason why he should be dismissed because of this behavior. But then Peter Ducey asks the golden question.
But if the administration is going to go to such great lengths to keep secrets about the defense secretary's health, how can anybody be certain that the administration would not go to the same lengths to keep secret problems with President Biden's health in the future?
If you could logically argue, and you can't, but if you could logically argue that
He's 81 years old.
Wait a second. Just give me a second here, bub. I'll get there.
Bub? Give me a second here, bub. But Ducey's making the point here. And he just interjected and said, Biden's 81 years old. It's legitimate to ask questions about his health. You guys say he's in great health. I mean, you lied about Lloyd Austin and you weren't fully transparent about his health. And, when you look at Lloyd Austin, no, he doesn't look like the picture of health. He looks a little overweight, although he could probably kick my butt. He's an Army general, after all. But he doesn't look super. But here's the thing. You look at Lloyd Austin and you don't immediately think, wow, I think he might have some problems with his prostate. See, that's something that, by anatomical design, your prostate is somewhat concealed. You could probably keep that from people. But when you see Joe Biden walk on screen, I mean, even before he utters a word, you just see him walking and you think there's something wrong with him. Then he starts talking and you know for sure that something's wrong with him. And this White House, we are supposed to believe, Peter Ducey asks, It is the most salient and relevant question that anyone's ever asked the Biden White House. Kirby's answer?
If the administration made some sort of Machiavellian effort across the board to keep this from getting public, then I think your question has merit and certainly is a fair one. I don't think it's a fair one because that's not what happened here, Peter.
So let me just be clear here as we wrap up this episode. The answer John Kirby gives is, listen, if we were smart enough and Machiavellian enough and competent enough to actually conceal this thing, then you'd have a point. But we're just not that smart. We're not that competent. That's not what happened here. We're just stupid buffoons. We're just really lousy at communicating. We're just so dumb, so idiotic that we are incapable of being transparent about Lloyd Austin's health. Okay? It wasn't some sort of brilliant Machiavellian intelligent plan here. We're just incompetent. Feel better now? Yeah, we feel great. November cannot come soon enough. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Hey, share this, spread it around, like it, subscribe so you can find out when we go live, and we will see you next time. I'm Larry O'Connor. Please, I'm begging you, call me Larry.